3. Organized Germanism. Germanism, the theory of a master race of Germans destined to enslave a weak world by force and brutality, had been an unvoiced doctrine of German belief since tribal days until the latter part of the last century, when it reached its maturity and became fashioned into a vast and well-organized movement. Its astonishing and ambitious program amalgamated all the major doctrines and beliefs of such German teachers, writers, statesmen, and philosophers as Kant, Nietzsche, Hegel, von Bernhardi, Rohrbach, Treitschke, and Spengler. And because the doctrine which it preached touched upon the very roots of the German soul and embraced the fundamental tenets of the German intellect, the movement met with immediate and tremendous popular response. In fact, its program was so popular with the Germans that within 10 years of its inception, its malignant dogma was already spread throughout the entire world. In 1886, a Dr. Karl Peters conceived a General German Congress in Berlin, during the course of which all German national associations therein represented were merged into one group, a so-called German League. Its program was at first vague and indefinite, and so much strife grew to exist among the various groups composing the League that its dissolution seemed imminent until 1891, when Professor Ernst Hasse, a deputy in the Reichstag from Leipzig, became its president and took its management into his own hands. The first step of Professor Hasse was to broadcast a widespread plea for help, appealing, as he said, quote, to the traditions of the German soul, unquote. His appeal was met with such a favorable response that the German League grew by leaps and bounds until it was not long before it was able to publish and maintain its own newspaper. In 1894, it changed its name to the Pan-German League and proceeded to lay down an entire program of action relative to world conquest and domination by Germany. The program of action for achieving such a goal was so replete with details that its program and its plan of procedure so comprehensive that it was adopted almost unchanged by the Nazis. For its motto, the League used the words of the great elector, "Remember, you are a German." During the interval in which the Pan-German League was organized, a German professor, Heinrich von Treitschke, was being hailed throughout Germany as a new prophet. For years, he had been spreading his fiery message of Germanism. It was a rabid admixture of war, hate, anti-Christianism, and destruction. It was the preaching of such doctrines which today have earned for Treitschke the great honor of being recognized by the Germans as the apostle of their ideology. Heinrich von Treitschke was born in Dresden in 1834. After graduating from various German universities and spending some time in aimless drifting, he suddenly became consumed with the tortuous idea of a German unity founded by the sword. Feeling that the best method in his day of spreading such a belief was through teaching, he turned eagerly to that profession. His continual insistence on spreading Prussianism and its doctrine of the quote-unquote mailed fist rule finally enabled him to settle in Berlin, where he became established as a popular historian and publicist. Treitschke was a warmonger and a might makes right advocate of the first rank. Possessing a natural gift for eloquence, he held his students spellbound during his lectures on conquer at all costs. For, according to his interpretation of Germany's development and history, it had to pursue such a course in order to spread itself beyond its boundaries. At first, he set Europe as the area of Germans' Lebensraum. But after the success of the German army in 1870, he enlarged and expanded upon his original declaration by stating that the world was Germany's to conquer and dominate, that through foisting war upon the world, the German nation was destined to become the superstate of the universe and to hold its people in thraldom. These teachings so appealed to the German character that Treitschke, like Hitler, soon captured the intellectuals as well as the masses of his day. His doctrines were spread throughout Germany by his many pupils until, eventually, practically every educated German of that day fell under his influence. Conceivably, he could not have inspired such a profound belief in such monstrous doctrines unless, in substance, they embraced aims and ideas already very definitely existing as inherent in the German character and innate in his soul. Many of those beliefs explain much of Germany's present actions. According to Treitschke, the individual has no right of his own, but exist only for the state, which has the exclusive rights over him as it wills. There is no other force except the will of the state, and war is the only and best way in which that will might be employed by it. A Germany so constituted can recognize no earthly power, and might makes right only when a German wields the sword. There is no such thing to the German as sacredness of human life, and war is sublime to him, because in it he can murder without passion. War is the best way in which Germany can enforce its will upon its neighbors, as well as being, quote, the only cure for diseased nations, end quote. Treitschke then treats with various methods to be employed by Germany in order to conquer and dominate the world. Germany, he writes, must make it a duty to employ traitors in the enemy states for its own interest, even though, he adds, every good German subject is a lament, and when opportunity arises, an active spy. Lying and deceit are encouraged as being a foundation stone for German policy, and as for treaties and the like, Treitschke advises that they are mere scraps of paper and urges that, quote, they can and must be denounced by Germany whenever the promise they hold becomes unprofitable to her, end quote. In such case, a treaty becomes automatically obsolete and, quote unquote, German honor demands that it be broken. There is, he continues, no such thing as international law and order, no covenants between nations. As for justice, there is no such thing except at the point of a German sword. All of Treitschke's teachings, as well as the most pointed and precise interpretations ever made of a German ego, is best summarized in a declaration in which he maintained that Germany could never have peace with the world because, to the German mode of thought, it is a foreign world which cannot be reformed, but can only be overthrown, end quote. Thus, the ideal of Germany becomes allied to the, quote, rule of evil, end quote, in a common German effort to annihilate civilization. The Pan-German League combined Treitschke's various doctrines into a program of action and issued, among its statutes, 4 main principles which lay down broadly its chief objectives. They were 1. To watch over and support all German national movements in all countries where Germans have to sustain a struggle in support of Germanism with the object of embracing and uniting all Germans on the globe. 2. Promote an active German policy in interests in Europe and across the seas, and especially to further all colonial movements for practical purposes. 3. To treat and solve all questions bearing upon the bringing up of children and higher education in the Germanic sense. 4. To quicken patriotic self-consciousness of Germans, and to offer opposition to all movements antagonistic to national development. In further explanation of the above statutes, the League issued a manifesto declaring that, quote, the fate of the Germans in Austria cannot be a matter of indifference to Germany. It cannot be a matter of indifference whether the Saxons or Swabians in Hungary are Magyarized, or the Germans in Switzerland or the Flemish in Belgium are Gallicized. Germans must actively support all movements in those countries in support of Germanism. Germanism across the seas must be preserved and fostered by every possible means. We already know how well the German has heeded and obeyed such advice. By 1900, there were some 50 various associations, all subservient to the Pan-German League, ramified in character but identical in aim. These groups, which range from military and naval cliques to sports leagues and banking institutions, were all fervently pledged to preserve and foster Germanism in foreign lands. Politically, too, the League gained considerable prestige. In 1903, no less than 43 members of the Reichstag had already been initiated as members. Branches of the League sprung up in major cities around the world. Of the 2 in the United States, one was located in New York, the other in Texas. With the spread of its propaganda, the League scattered a large number of secret agents throughout the world for the purpose of resupplying it with confidential reports relating to the gospel of Germanism. These agents were the forerunners of the present-day Fifth Columnist. It was their work which stated to compilation of the notorious German scrapbook, in which that government listed all of its enemies and enemies to the idea of a German-dominated world. To a nation such as Germany, blackmail pales in insignificance to its other crimes. And so, with every passing hour, the members of the German League continued with their nefarious work, which teaching and enforcing the great common German ideal of world enslavement quickly became an integral part of the average German life and dreams. By 1905, the tenets of the Pan-German were already known to all. The initial work had been done. The vicious virus of Germanism had been infected into the lifestream of the public, and the Germans awaited the epidemic which they felt must sooner or later infest the world. As a matter of fact, the work and program, as well as the propaganda which they spread, had reached such a pitch that as far back as 1895, various German writers already busy prophesying how and when the ideological goal of German world domination would be attained. The prophets were by no means few in number. There exist a large number of serious works by German authors in which the destiny of their country is elaborately worked out in full detail, and the deification of Germanism as a world religion depicted. From one such prophecy, written in 1900, we learn that things about the year 1950 have become to cause great uneasiness. All Germans have been united. Holland enters the German Union. In Belgium, the Flemings grow in power, and because the French element causes increasing trouble, Germany is obliged to intervene. If France objects to a total absorption of Belgium by Germany, then the French Walloon territory falls to France, the Flemish portion to Germany. Maybe the French fight, in which case all Belgium will be annexed and incorporated in the German world empire. The author then goes on to discuss, rather vaguely, the subject of France, Switzerland, and the Balkans. After which he cautions the Germans, quote, by all means avoid a war with Russia, if possible, end quote. He completed the prophecy by stating that, quote, in the year 1950, great world Germany will possess a population of 200 millions. Everyone is happy because all Germans are now united and are ruling the world, end quote. The prophecy did not, by any means, appear fantastic to the Germans of that day. Actually, it was considered as altogether too conservative because more radical leaders had set out the establishment of the quote-unquote German world at a much earlier date than 1950. Writing in 1895, one ambitious German predicted that Der Tag would arrive sometime in 1915. Here is a summary of his augury. About the year 1915, the whole world starts trembling. Two great states take action in self-defense, America and Russia. America proclaims aloud the doctrine of Pan-America. Russia concludes custom treaties with Turkey, Persia, and China. Great Britain, Pan-America, and the Pan-Slavonic Russian Colossus threaten to overthrow the 16 states of Europe. At this junction, Germany intervenes and, rising to the occasion, sets to work to prepare army and navy for the coming struggle. Then follows a depiction of the war and a few miscellaneous vagaries, after which the writer continues. The Junkers roll in money. Meanwhile, Pan-America has become a source of great uneasiness to Germany, for Germanism is threatened in South America, the United States declining to give way. The German, Italians, and French navies mobilize and set sail for America. The American Navy is destroyed. On land, the German troops made short work of the American mercenaries. Under the brilliant leadership of the German leader, the Germans were everywhere victorious. On sea, the German ships, guns, and men showed their great superiority over the English, who were regularly defeated. German discipline, courage, and skill made the German Navy invincible. The British Navy was destroyed. Invaded, the English offered but a half-hearted resistance. The German and Italian soldiers seized London. England and America were defeated. Peace was concluded. Concerning the terms of the peace, the writer declared that Germany took Mexico, Guatemala, British Honduras, all Brazil south of the Amazon, Uruguay, Paraguay, Bolivia, Peru, and northern Chile. France took Brazil, north of the Amazon, British Guyana, Venezuela, Colombia, and Ecuador. Italy took what was left of South America, including the Argentine. The West Indies were divided between Germany and France. Gibraltar was restored to Spain. Malta was given to Italy, Cyprus to Turkey. The English had to pay an enormous war indemnity. There was great discontent in England because the entire British Navy was held by the Germans as a guarantee of payment. All England's Suez Canal shares were confiscated and distributed among the victorious powers. The Kimberley diamond mines were seized by Germany, and all English and American capital investment in Brazil and South America was transferred to German lands. The cable lines were taken by Germany, and all English and American colonists ordered to leave South America within a year, never to be permitted to settle in any country on that continent again. Thus, England and America are humbled and the rule of the German mailed fist secured. Maps circulating soon after this prophecy was made public illustrate the division of South America, the northern half and Central America being portrayed thereon as German colonies. Still another writer, predicting a war somewhat similar to the one mentioned above, finished his prophecy by stating that, quote, after completely humbling England, the time has arrived for Germany to settle within the United States. Upon German mobilization, the United States yielded to her all her demands without striking a blow, end quote. Though many of these prophecies vary in detail, the reader is aware of the one outstanding fact which pervades them all, that the deification of Germanism cannot be accomplished without the fall and humiliation of both England and the United States. This was declared to be fact by Dr. Paul Samasa, a German professor who, in 1902, stated that Germany must be prepared to combat the Britons and Americans. After defeating these last of the free peoples, Germany could then rule the world in any way she pleased. In 1904, one observer, taking serious note of all such German prophecies and desires, wrote an envisioned analysis in which he forewarned that, quote, the doctrine of Germanism may quite well become a national ideal and kindle a very dangerous spirit. For Anglo-Saxondom, the lesson it teaches is obvious. Readiness is all. Let England and the United States be prepared at all times successfully to meet the Teutonic onrush, if it ever should come, end quote.